On the Eve of Destiny. Prologue, Part 1.
The little girl paced the wide vestibule, her frilled skirt swishing about her ankles. Every so often she stopped, turning an expectant eye to the doorman who stood before the double doors. In response, he spied through a peephole, then turned to the child with a disappointing shake of his head. The girl crossed her arms before her chest, a severe frown furrowing her brow around the red ruby embedded in her forehead. "He is late," she thought, glaring at the lush cream carpet. She was upset and was fighting against the tears which began to sting her eyes when the knock at the door finally came. Her sadness forgotten, she rushed to the doors just as the doorman opened them, and her eyes settled on the 12-year-old boy who stood just beyond. "Uvo!" she exclaimed, dashing past the doorman and the attendant who had knocked to fling herself into the little boy's arms. "Eme," he grunted, struggling to regain his balance. "How are you?" She glared up at him, chiding. "You are late." She took his hand and, without sparing the tall man who accompanied the boy so much as a thought, pulled him past the attendant and doorman into the house. The tall man and attendant followed behind. As she led the boy through the halls, she quickly dismissed his apology for his tardiness and bombarded him instead with talk of her own. She told him how excited she was for the evening and how her father bought her new outfit just for the day, and did he think it was pretty? The boy only managed, "Yes, very much," before she thundered on again. The tall man laughed softly behind them. They came to the rear of the home where two wide glass doors framed in polished cherry wood stood open, leading onto a stone veranda extending the length of the house. Wide steps led down from the veranda to a flagstone walk that meandered through a marvelous garden, planted with palm trees, yellow plumeria trees, and various other blossoms. All was alight with the brilliance of the low evening sun. The air was filled with the sweet scents of the blooms, the irresistible fragrance of plumeria permeating through all to weave a delectable web of intertwining aromas. At one end of the veranda, the girl's mother busied about a great mahogany table, aided by several servants. When the child and her guests stepped onto the veranda, she announced with enthusiasm, "They are here!" thus alerting her mother as well as her father and older brother who rushed from the garden. They scrambled to the guests, dropping to their knees before the tall man and small boy. The girl's father addressed the man. "This servant is honored to welcome our lord to his humble home. Migwa." Her mother and brother echoed, "Migwa." "Vrendo," the tall man answered, stepping forward to help the girl's father to his feet. "Come, Ogaga. We have long been as brothers and will soon be one family. Do away with these formalities." He turned to the girl's mother. "Rise, fair Eseme," and helped her up. "We are humbled by our Lord's grace," Eseme said, bowing her head in thanks. While the girl's mother, father, and brother all had rubies embedded in their foreheads, their two guests were adorned in rich robes, embroidered silk cloths wrapped around their heads and foreheads. The man accompanying the small boy was tall and broad of build, but looked gaunt, his eyes hollow as if from illness. The boy stepped forward, addressing the girl's parents. "May you accept my devotion." He bowed his head, cupping his hands before his chest. "We are honored to be greeted thus by Lord Uvo," Ogaga said as he and his wife bowed, returning the greeting. "Emeravwe," Eseme addressed the little girl, "have you greeted Lord Uvo and his father properly?" The girl grasped the wide sleeve of the boy's garment, hiding herself behind it from her mother's knowing gaze. "But I am not used to the greetings," she complained, "and I like greeting Uvo with hugs better." She grinned up at him. "You like it too, right, Uvo?" The boy smiled, placing an arm around her shoulders. "I do." The adults laughed, and the boy's father said, "You must forgive her, Eseme, as today is the celebration of her birth." It was the girl's 6th birthday, and the boy and his father had come to celebrate. They sat for supper on the veranda, the girl quickly gulping hers and urging the boy to do the same, though she was chided by her parents. He heeded her, however, and they played in the garden among the trees and blooms. When all had finished, she announced she had something to show the boy, and, leading him along by the hand, they retired inside to a small room overlooking the garden. As the adults settled in their seats, the girl pulled the boy to a small couch, explaining, "Father and Mother made me this room as a present. It is my new study." The boy looked around the brightly decorated room as he sat, remarking, "It is quite pretty, like you, Emme."
Thank you for joining me for this reading. If you enjoyed the story so far, become a supporter by joining me on Patreon. You can find me at patreon.com/oroje. That's patreon.com/ORODJE. See you at the next chapter.